Hello, today is September 13th. We are here in Lis Fatima recording the public lecture of today. Well, the theme we have chosen for today says, "That which I do not know might hold the best part." And it is an important impulse because we are in a mental race, we are evolving in a mental process, and if we don't discover other ways to re-encounter our true process, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And we have been educated to repeat experiences. And when we wake up or when we find the spiritual path again, we tend to repeat this mechanism of repeating an experience until the moment comes, guided by our inner world, in which we are going to re-encounter that precise point we stopped in a previous lifetime, to restart. So we are going to understand, and I emphasize this, that our trajectory does not begin today. Today I refer to this incarnation. We are beings who have gone through many experiences in the universe and on the planet, and now we need to re-encounter and place all of this in a certain order, to even take advantage of this seemingly chaotic movement of the planet, which is a transition, to move towards new horizons, as we are going to see today. So this movement of being very much tied to that which we know must be lived with much discernment and gratitude, so that we may not precipitate. We have experiences that we must consolidate, mature, and extract the most of these experiences, and perceive the moment when this starts to be worn out, and discover this point so that we may not block the experience. And as a practice, let us say, we tend to always warn everyone to those points that may eventually be blocking our experiences, so that we may not miss this possibility of living the experience, even being here in this true tie, the incarnation in which we are tied so many things that we lose this inner freedom. And one of these points is our tendency of controlling things, others, the processes, because we have been educated like this. When we incarnate, it's natural that our soul have the power, it's not that our soul will enter the bodies, must enter the bodies and make a management of these bodies, how they function, how they react, how they interact. The point is, when it goes over a certain measure, and in this moment of inner encounter, our inner world must be together in this process of alignment with the higher worlds. And in this moment we are tested in the field of faith on what we have assimilated from other lifetimes, important moments. Even very experienced beings go through this in their incarnation. When we see the life of Saint Teresa of Avila, Padre Pio, how in their incarnation they were human beings seeking to re-encounter that process and commitment. And a very important key that all these beings left for us, especially Saint John of the Cross, besides the beings of the East, is to learn to co-inhabit moments of uncertainty when the mind has no control. And beings who were very mental in previous lifetimes, or who had a lot of control or some sort of power, find it very difficult to live in uncertainty, and it indirectly begins to affect the process of faith, the process of how much they have communed with inner processes. And this is just a stage of the path. There is nothing wrong or right. Well, in this sense, we must understand that everything comes to us, whatever it is it only comes to us because it is allowed by the universe, God, the one consciousness, in whichever way each one can understand. It only allow, which is not a precise verb for the universe, only allow something to come to us because we have something to do with it in some way. We either have a link with this or a chemical element to collaborate in the harmony of that context. But only the things that correspond to us come to us. If it doesn't correspond, it's going to be filtered on some level and it won't touch us. It may reach us, but it won't be part in our mechanism. And this that calls humanity today is not that calls us personally. We have studied here in previous sharings that humanity is experiencing a transition. The planet is experiencing a transition. The Logos is experiencing a transition. And this is a considerable cosmic event. And this is why we have to be very much conscious of this, not to lose our focus with this blurry movement of darkness that is be around us, that only see concrete facts and doesn't see it within a broader context. So we have today on the planet, together with humanity, a very great potential of help, as we are going to see here, as we have studied in that sharing, inner realities of the planet, and this is available, but we have to learn or relearn to access all of this and be grateful for all of this, and especially live this. Well, we have some questions that are also part of this theme, so the theme is going to also be developed together with the questions besides other important things. So someone asks, I got divorced and now the pain of solitude, of loneliness is corroding me. What to do? Well, there is no answer for some situations. They are learning experiences we have to go through, which eventually are part of our path. The matter is that you should eventually observe how much you are decided to really hear others, hear life, listen to eventually perspectives that do not coincide with yours. Are you decided to listen? Because you see, oftentimes, the absence could be the only way for someone else to be heard. So, and I'm even referring to spiritual help in his language of that time. St. John of the Cross mentions the dark night. So oftentimes the absence is necessary for us to recognize what we had and did not value. So absence could be the only way for something to be heard. So maybe suffering, maybe your difficulty of missing an opportunity of hearing, listening. But what now? Now try to listen to that which is before you. So in this exercise, it's not an eventual, and I'm not referring to an eventual reconciliation. Karma will take care of this. But take action to observe and be liberated from a chain that is tying you. So try to listen to others, and what is important in others will begin to rebuild things in you, and karma will take care of other processes. So someone is asking what it means to spiritually fail. Spiritually, there is no definitive failure. There are more or less successful experiences, and what it's the most important, either we call it failure or not, it's how we interpret the result of our experience. Because oftentimes many interpret the crucifixion of Jesus as a failure. If he had so much power, how did he allow to live all of that? And here someone asks what I meant in another sharing, when I said that Jesus decided not to come down from the cross. So what could be seemingly a failure spiritually has a different meaning. So we should be careful with our mental interpretation of our experience, because our mind is a mind built with a permanent atom of many lifetimes, conditioned to a lens of a certain degree, a certain texture, molded for that which it knows. So it's essential to go beyond the mind in this time. So failure eventually is when we decide, when we desist, we give up restarting. It could be more extended failure when things reach a point of interference that it removes from us the impulse, the strength of starting again. Well, now when Jesus didn't use his spiritual power to come down from there, not only coming down from there, he could dismaterialize, applying a different law and not allowing this to happen. The point is that that was foreseen, or this was recreated, that condition, so that the whole process could be concluded. So the beings who truly have spiritual power, referring to all of us, it's no privilege. Of course, due to the right proportions, no one is comparing to Jesus here, but in our level, in our evolutionary degree, we have a certain power not to come down from this cross that corresponds to us. So when Jesus called the apostles, "Take your cross and follow me," is that we should assume our karma, our process, peacefully and go through this experience, not using power, human power, between quotation marks, to control this situation and not take the process to the end. This is the point, and he gave us a key: the one who will persist to the end, this will be saved. So this persists until the end is not the end of this life, is the end of the cycle, which is an aspect of the cross in us, needs to mature and be lived. So it's very important to persist, not give up, and seek success, if this word exists spiritually. So find success on a different plane. What I lived internally with all of this. Well, and here someone asks about that text that we studied in the last sharing by Saint Francis of Assisi. This is published, you can find in the website of Irdin Publisher, in the newsletter of Sinais, number 19, page 6, number 8 of this publication. So you see, all of this is the unknown. All of this is not in the scope of the concrete known mind. This is not in the news of the day. This is our love to the unknown that could hold the best part. The best part, not a mental perspective and human only, which makes us being in a situation without living it. And here someone asks, how to access an environment for inner healing? Well, even historically, it was a grace to be in Jerusalem, all that region of Israel, in 2023. I'm not referring to the nation itself, not to create any thought form, but what it represents for humanity, not only for a nation. And here we had the opportunity of being in the desert of Judah, in Qumran. And this is almost a relic, which is the work with the Essenes. And we were able to see some constructions, stone staircases that works with the water, the work of purification with water. And also the Greeks in ancient Greece, they had a work with water, with the abstinences, fastings, to prepare to that which the Greeks called the sleep in the temple. So we have this very close to us, which is the moment of sleeping. And do we give to this moment, which is not a moment of disconnection? On the contrary, it should be a moment of reconnection beyond a restoration, beyond nourishing our physical, mental, and emotional batteries, a moment of inner reconnection. So in Greek, in other times, they were called temples of healing. And in that sharing about the spiritual realities of the planet, we have this architecture permeating the planet, emerging from the inner planes, the same situation, but updated to these times of today. So we have the temples of healing, the healing gardens, the lakes of healing, the work with the water on the inner planes, the work with the crystals. Internally I refer. So on the inner planes we have a universe available to us for us to experience this that we call inner healing. And we must not mix, although there is a lot of many things in common, we should not mix healing with the processes of health. Healing is something more profound. You see in a dream how someone was helped. How someone was helped. Better saying, how this person is helping us through her dream in this process of inner healing. There were many hydraulic tubes, connections. All of this spread around the place, and these pieces were apparently broken, and there was a lot of pure water springing around. This was a scene that the person saw, and she could see that through an invisible forces that she could not see, all the pieces would go into their right positions, their connections, and all the water that was being wasted began to go through those tubes, and reach the place where they were supposed to go. So this is a symbol of inner healing. Through many lifetimes, especially at this moment of the planet, we are in contact with many mistaken forces of the universe, which we also call evolutionary forces, forces that generate darkness, dissociation, chaos. So in our profound world, there is a possibility, through this whole help that the planet is receiving, for us to receive an inner healing, so that these broken pieces, this connection, these tubes, a symbol of connection with higher dimensions, may reconnect, allowing this water of life that is being wasted, that is here now. If we really speak of the universe, of the cosmos, if we speak of God, of higher life, and if this is omnipresence, this is here now, not be after the sharing, not tomorrow, after I purify myself, after I am healed from a cancer. No, now. At this precise moment, we are part of God, but deeply we don't believe in this. Better saying, we don't surrender ourselves to the experience of communing with all of this. Why? Because we interpret that a situation that we see as negative, a trial, a difficulty, or even illness, is contrary to this experience of communion. No. And let us use this mantra that Jesus had said on the cross: Father, in your hands I surrender my spirit. So this mantra, who knows, maybe this mantra can be used when these forces want to confuse us that we are not part of God. Because if we really believe and exercise this is the point. It's not enough to believe. We have to go through this experience in every situation, whatever it is, beneficial, constructive, aligned with our expectation, or the opposite, it doesn't matter. If we practice this, we are going to see an inner liberation, which is a symbol or a reflection that we are beginning a true and profound healing work. So this is how it is. It has come as it has come. I embrace this, just like Jesus embraced the cross. And we are here in God, going through the experience, or we are in the universe united to this. Because while we reject something that corresponds to us, we won't be able to commune with God. Because we ourselves are judging or interpreting that this that is coming to us does not correspond to us. We feel that this is injustice. We don't understand the law of karma. So this question is very related to the law of karma. So here someone affirms that having access to the inner world seems to be a very difficult task. We bring beliefs from other lifetimes that bring us to the past. How to come out of this? A true action, an initiative that we have, I say true in a sense of being a reconnection with higher life. This can only result in something constructive when the mind is really free of this division of time. So it's not that the past is conditioning you. The thing is that there are tendencies that you are rejecting. Tendencies of learning experience. So you reject this, something that is connected to the past, and you cannot make this synthesis. And oftentimes, due to this fear of losing control, and also due to something that is very common, especially in proud minds or in consciousnesses who were successful between quotation marks, or who lived with evolved beings, and when the time comes for them to live their own process, they feel this difficulty of forgiving themselves, of admitting that they are beings in evolution and therefore must transcend so many things as everyone in the human condition have to transcend, not as a penalty of human condition, no, because the human condition leads us to a very specific learning experience. Our conception of humanity is very particular. We have to heal this also. So to resolve this, we really must seek being quieter, really discovering this unknown within us. And when we are living from a right intention, when we point our will and our intention to the right direction, to calm down and know that the result of this is in the hands of the universe. Because you see, all life, the laws of matter, include the rhythm of rhythms and the law of cycles. So every movement we do towards the universe begins to create a frequency. So this frequency pulsates, we create a rhythm with our practice, with our offering, our persistency. This creates a vibration and begins to attract an energy that is corresponding to this. And this leads us to alignment, but we have to quiet down, not seeking to control the result and nourishing expectations regarding this. A good part of the aspirants and searchers of a higher life give up due to this because they create expectations. Oftentimes, they have results in their understanding that do not correspond to their expectation, abandon the path, and even turn against the path because they don't understand the foundations of higher life. So we must really be quiet to discover this inner contact that will happen through the contact with that which is unknown. And it is completely abnormal process for the common life of today. Everything going against to what the conscious world is bombards over us. So we have to love that which we could call the world of silence, which is the inner world. it has nothing to do with being absent from the day to day and not speaking to others. It has nothing to do. We are speaking of a posture of an attitude of the consciousness, emptying from human and common attitudes. Shakespeare may have said that the less time I have, the more things I do. So it has nothing to do with the external world, but it has to do with our inner attitude. So this process of memories and remembrances, it must be that triggering for you to conclude a learning experience. So look at this. You still need to recognize a few things. So this goes and comes back. So why don't you ask yourself, what do I have to learn with this? What have not I learned, assimilated? What do I have to place in the situation so that this may be liberated? So all of this is an inner process. It has nothing to do with what happens outside here. What happens outside here is a result of so many forces, oftentimes divergency forces in the scales, but if you don't quiet down, don't place your consciousness in your center, in your core, even through physical disciplines, prayers, meditations, visual, whatever, but quiet down your human nature, allow your profound world to come closer to you. Someone asks here that it is mentioned that we have a spiritual family that connects us with profound and higher nuclei. And the person mentions, is this a lot of responsibility? As we advance, all of them advance in dimension, as this person says this. And the question is, we are also connected with inferior, lower nuclei, and also it connects our consciousness with the ego density on the astral and inferior level. And if it's so, how do this connect with this? Trigueirinho mentioned that every time the questions are real, when a moment of instruction is foreseen, one question ends up answering the other. Correcting myself, it collaborates in the thought form within the group consciousness that one will help another. And precisely someone dreamt that she was walking and observing that when she looked to her shadow, there were many shadows that accompanied her, and not only one, as normally happens. Well, these shadows that the person saw in the dream are these human aspects from this and other lifetimes, which are leftovers of previous experiences that we continue to nourish in this incarnation eventually. So we do have this link with inferior situations besides this spiritual life, the spiritual family, and it could be that the shadow that accompanies us could be that we are relieving others' shadows. So if we really understand that humanity is one and that we are part of a group, an inner and spiritual group, many processes that we go through eventually are not only our own processes, or they are ours from other lifetimes, and we participate in this in some degree. We become free for some reason, and that group, some members of that group, even externally, are going through that experience. So it's very fair from the spiritual point of view that we can share this shadow, the reflection of some state of consciousness. So in a correct attitude before this, we may help in the dissolution of this shadow. Imagine if all human beings could understand life and their shadows in this way, or the shadows that accompany them. If we could come out from this gravitational center that is our human ego, how many transformations could happen in our lives and in the universe? If we could understand whatever that we are perceiving, whatever shadow it is part of ours. Otherwise, we wouldn't be experiencing this. Not seeing this from the self-pity standpoint, because there is a character in the human consciousness that is the victim character, that is betrayal. So it's not self-pity, but a spirit of service, of higher understanding that something could have to do with our own process. For sure it has. If you are seeing this shadow, it is necessary to work in the liberation, but not in work in the liberation selfishly, but consolidating the codes that we are attracting for our life. And within time, this is going to be gradually dissolved, and for sure, don't doubt. When we work this within us and consolidate this step, this is going to reflect both in this spiritual family that waits for our higher evolution, as well as those human links with evolutionary forces that will begin to become distant from us very naturally. This is an inner process within the consciousness. Well, someone asks here, see, all of this is the theme of today, that which I do not know might hold the best part. So this unconscious, this higher world, this that lies in the profound region of our being, for sure holds the best part. The point is that we could interpret the best part as a gratification. This is a great problem for those who seek spiritual life, to associate the best part with gratification. So the person says, well, Jesus being crucified is the best part, but we should see what is hidden behind this experience, which really holds something profound and spiritual. And here someone asks if we could reflect about the difference between understanding and living, how these two verbs connect, understand and live. Can we live without understanding? First of all, for sure, we understand on many levels, not only mentally. The greatest part of the understanding or the learning experience of is in a different plane. I'm referring to those who are spiritually seeking and dive into this mystery that this search is. So we understand on many levels, and for sure it is in our profound level where we understand the most and the best, because this is where our higher nuclei lie. This is where our beings inside or profoundly interact with other lords and understands, but not a mental understanding, a process of communion and assimilation. This is to comprehend. We start to commune with this, to identify with this. It goes much beyond a mental understanding. So the more profound and elevated the level is within us, is the level that understands within us, the greater the possibility of being stable and consolidate new states of consciousness in our depths. So when we consolidate this comprehension, this understanding in our profound level, it's going to be much easier, or it's going to flow much better one day when this level can project in our human consciousness and we can live this, because the understanding, the comprehension was internal. When the understanding is human and superficial, it's very fragile. You begin to doubt right away when there is something external that goes against to your expectation. So you see how important it is to understand things internally. It's an important question to help us in this process of today. Well, here the person says, if we can speak of that which we call parallel lives, if I exist in another place, if this other part of mine advances spiritually, how is it reflected here? And how does this other part knows that I am advancing? And this other part can be very different in its ways of behavior and expression. Is there such parallelism? I personally, as far as I know of spiritual science, I wouldn't call it parallelism. It's not precisely this. It's not a parallel life. It's a situation that happens at the same time, as we don't know. It's not some an understanding and knowledge, a mental knowledge and understanding. As we don't have a profound knowledge of our profound levels, all of this is very mysterious. The point that I would warn this consciousness, and who is this I that is asking? If I advance, who knows that I advance? Who advance? Your ego, your personality, your profound consciousness. Where is this I, the self, that asking if they are advancing and what is happening with a different level? So let's go part by part. First of all, we have to remember this is why we began this cycle of public lectures based on reflections of the esoteric lexicon, this work of Trigueirinho, because there we have basic explanations of the profound constitution of the human consciousness. So many spirits or monads have 7 monads, or other have other different types of tasks, and they have 14 monads, others have 27 monads, and so on. And in a more elevated level, expressing the matrix of that which we call Father, God, in the universe of the one consciousness, the consciousness of Christ, also known as Samana in the universe, he has 72 monads. And these monads or expression dwell in this infinite universe, going through this learning experience of maturing to express that which that higher matrix had foreseen for this being. So generally, as far as we know, the human monads of the great majority are 7. And there is an 8th monad, which is the monad that makes a synthesis of these other 7 and makes a bridge with that which we call our essence, our real being. So we are here with a little thread of our monad through our soul. Our soul is the one that incarnates. Our monad would not bear the density of an incarnation, especially in this time when everything is so confused and disorganized. Spiritual vibration will cause much more dissociation than harmony. So the soul in the 4th dimension, the shield or this nucleus that makes like a valve of contact with the immaterial and the contact with the worlds of the incarnation. So we have many monads. One is projected through the soul here. We know that monads are very withdrawn nowadays. We have studied that in 1988 there was a great cosmic event led by Astraras Gram, which promoted the movement of a special grace, the awakening of all human monads evolving in the aura of the planet Earth. It was a very daring, we could say, movement of the hierarchy, so that the monads that are not that are experiencing evolution on the planet. I'm not referring to only to incarnated monads. Many monads and souls were touched by this impulse of Ashtarasgram, also being on a different plane, being in the interval of incarnation. So this is why this moment of the planet is important. It's a moment of great opportunities for beings who are eventually very primitive, or who have entered the wheel of incarnations of the planet, who also went through the experience of awakening of monads, and eventually in the next cycle of the planet, they could have their evolutionary process having started. So the spiritual experiences can happen at the same time. So we can have with our monad, through our soul, going through our experience here, and another monad of ours in a process of inner healing, as for example in the consciousness of the planet Venus develops, being there and experiencing its process. And in this plane of the monads, especially the plane of the 8th monad, there is a synthesis, and live or not, be aware or not, here or there. It depends very much on the synthesis that we make in the soul, how much the soul really gives back or offers or sends the synthesis to our spirit. And from there, in the higher plane, this movement is experienced and the synthesis is shared. Now, this is very hidden, internal, and mysterious. And this should not remove the focus. This is the point of what is before us at this precise moment. Let us understand this. That which I do not know could or might hold the best part. At this precise moment, there is something sublime before us. Why don't we place our consciousness on this and open ourselves to this? I'm not referring to walk around as silly beings thinking that everything is a symbol of the divine. No, but we should see in everything an expression of this universe in expansion, and the quieter and the more more in silence we are, the more all of this will express itself. There are many important things happening in the material life to reconnect, like in this dream, all these pieces, this higher energy. So this is before us at the precise moment. The point is that we link being in contact or being in attunement, in tune, or in offering with a specific moment, but what happens before this moment of offering and the following moment? Are we given to evolutionary forces then? Wouldn't be reasonable to consider the intervals instead, the greatest part of our time, that is the life that we live, and give attention and a more vigilant attitude, so that this water is not being wasted there. This is just a reflection. So, of course, for all of this, we have to make a decision. And precisely someone asks, in this sense, how to know the reason of not being able to sustain a decision. Someone who considers that has made many decisions and she feels frustrated because she sees that the decision she made was not precisely a decision. So much so she went back to the same point and repeated the situation. You see, a decision is not an impulsive and superficial matter. We have to be very attentive to this. First of all, a decision is when we identify a cyclic moment that is before us. So we internally perceive that we are before something that makes us make a decision. We don't even know eventually what decision this is. And it promotes in us the moment of healthy restlessness to make a decision. And if we are not internally connected in this movement, deepening, seeking to overcome this ego, human process of this identity that is only human, we could be thrown to a superficial, impulsive decision, and we will experience this frustration inevitably. You see, a decision must always be accompanied by a process of conversion and transformation. If it's not accompanied of a transformation of something, a conversion, a change of paradigm, this won't be a decision. It will be an adaptation, an adjustment before a situation, but not a decision. So if we are cultivating a transformation, a conversion of feelings, of inner postures or attitudes, conversion of attitudes, conversion of our priorities, transforming our whole understanding of life. So this process will one day reach the cyclic moment of making a decision. Related to what? To whatever is before you. This is not something mental or programmed. A decision that we know that we have to make. But if we have a first decision well understood, which is, who am I? Have I decided to ask myself, who am I? Am I this individual that I can see in this return screen? Am I this self that I see in the mirror every day? Am I this self that others see? How others see me? If I believe in this, I am tied to a world, a level of experience, which is the human condition, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult to understand what is to make a decision in the sense of spiritual search and higher search. So in the environments of mature spiritual search, we are always led or invited to this reflection. Who am I? And what comes, I allow to pass. I observe this. I observe what it is coming from, which region it's coming from. If it's really part of my profound region, nature, if this is essential. And many get lost in this search, in the spiritual search, let us say, because they begin to find in the intermediate planes many phenomena, experiences that bring certain gratification, and they are very much tied to this. And they tie their consciousness to this intermediary plane, because you see, humanity is walking towards a liberation of this movement of these forces. Liberation no longer be linked or restricted to. So in other times in the East, this was called to pass from the cycle, it doesn't pass. The liberation of this wheel of incarnations to commune of a higher life. But if we don't liberate ourselves from ourselves in this understanding that we are not only this human nucleus that welcomes us or shelters us in this incarnation, all the rest is imprisoned in this matter of the personality and the ego, and everything that happens is linked to this filter or this lower self. So if we really don't mature our conversion, our transformation, if we don't love our awakening, there is a very important key here. Many abandon the path or justify that they are distancing in a certain degree of adherence to the path because of this or that. No, it's because you didn't love the path as you should. You didn't embrace your cross as you should. So you abandon it. So you abandon a stage of the path that was offered out of grace for you to be able to liberate from this illusion more quickly. And I corrected my sentence because the one who once woke up to the spiritual path has no way to sleep again forever. They could sleep for a lifetime, but this seed is the seed of the universe in us. When the cyclic moment comes for this one consciousness to touch our consciousness and remind us that we are children of creation, this is untouchable. There is no evolutionary force in the universe that will dissolve this filiation with God, with the one consciousness, with the universe. So you should ask yourself how much your decision is really based in your awakening to this identity, because all the rest comes from this. Otherwise, we begin to mix the levels, state here that our spirit is saying something that is absolutely human and evidently it is human. This is very dangerous, very dangerous. So this is it. A decision is something that matures. It matures from this awakening of ours, and then life itself, this inner world, this that is called our higher self, begins to show us those segments or sectors or environments of our life, our external and internal life, that has to live the result of our decisions. Otherwise, they are unsustainable. So be very careful with this, because I know many people who are frustrated. This is in their gaze. And they are... I'm correcting myself. It's not a frustrated person, but a frustrated soul. So that soul is frustrated because they are asking for help. They are seeing that they are imprisoned by their personality, that insists in imprisoning inner life in this cheap search for this spirituality of today, mystical and esoteric spirituality that doesn't lead us to higher alignment. So the person asked how to collaborate with these higher beings who are present on the planet, collaborating with humanity. The first point of collaboration is to wake up to this inner world. So our identification with our higher self won't bring the same mechanisms of our personality, and the trials that the great majority of aspirants or searchers live is that they transfer to spiritual life the same expectation that the human ego promotes in their lives, which is that everything goes around themselves. Victimism is this a profoundly spiritual and ego process, that you are in the center as a victim. No victim, don't you know the karma law? Protagonism of what? There is a karma, a dharma. You either understand this definitively, or you are tied in the circle, your soul is struggling, it's in your eyes, and you cannot liberate yourself. So, how to come out from this process of not being able to sustain a decision? Study a little bit, observe a little bit the consistency of your decision to transform yourself, not only to be a better person, a good person, who speaks softly, everyone likes. No, this is politeness. Let us move more profoundly, a transformation and conversion of the paradigm. How I see myself. What is life for myself? Am I being dragged by common life with patterns of behavior, expectations accompanying the fashionable tendencies so that I may be accepted by others? You see, this is something pulling you to something that is very dark. So, on the planet today, the rescue operation began in 1988. So see in the esoteric glossary. So everything is superphysical reality in the universe. Everything is collaborating with this rescue operation, which is to rescue, in the biblical language, to save humanity from this shipwreck, which is everyone's life, which is to be there, giving hands and nourishing evolutionary forces, chaotic forces. Do we want to come out from this? Are we watching our movement with this? And there is a movement here which is we are not initiated. That is, our soul, our higher selves don't have total control on our bodies. But all those who begin to seek their inner reality sincerely and persistently begin to be very much helped to contain the movement of their bodies. So I may not be able to control everything that eventually escapes my word. Control means I look at my body, one of my bodies, and I say, this feeling is not mine. I'm not going to nourish this. So I can control this or contain this in the good sense. I am giving discipline to one of my bodies, but I can't contain this. I can see that through some stimulus, a sadness, restlessness begin to emerge, so I can contain this reaction of mine before this that is coming and not nourish this. We can do this. Perhaps we won't be able to control this entirely. This is permeating, continues to permeate our consciousness. And this is a learning experience. It's part of the expansion of consciousness, this inner strength to be able to keep things in order, how much we adhere to that which we develop or not. So to sustain a descension, the reason could be this: how much we have decided for a conversion, a more profound transformation, and where our identity is. All classic ancient spiritual lines come from this point: how much we are detached from that which we have lived. How much the unknown, which for sure holds the best part, is loved by us, and we continue to warm up a situation, wanting to relive an experience, or we are either looking for the essence of this experience and recreating something in the current condition, this precise moment. What is my attitude right now at this precise moment? Or what was my attitude during this reflection? From this we see the inconsistency of our decision. How many times have our consciousnesses distanced themselves because the decision of being present in God escapes because everything that is superfluous, attractive to our bodies, gradually leads our consciousness to this whole involvement. So we have to make a decision. Which side are we going to go through? The light side, or do we want to be one more? One more accepted, one more who accepts, one more politically and spiritually correct. What do we want to be? And to finalize, in a softer tone, with an energy that is very important within us, someone asks, what is to be charitable? What is to be charitable? Well, when I read this question, for sure, your minds, the mind of each one of you, began to answer. Our minds are very knowledgeable and they begin to answer right away. It's automatic. Each one's mind begins to bring an answer or associate it with someone, an external act. Observe. We could have a sharing one day of an impulse of that consciousness we know as Mother Teresa of Calcutta, called Rishkamel, an impulse only about charity, but coming back to the context and very much connected to the sharing of today. Here, whatever each one of us see, love, light, and the soul, this profound nucleus where no one sees apparently or seemingly. So, those who has dedicated to the work with people with special needs or sick people, elders, we see deep there in the gaze of that soul an experience of love, light that is much more evident than normal people. So to be charitable, this ideal, this degree of purity, openness and transparency, which helps us to see in this situation something that no one sees. So much so that no one sees that these are the experiences, let us call it like this, these strong learning experiences when we are within the experience that generally are abundant, which does not correspond to harmonious, famous, accepted main character of protagonism. So to be charitable could be a seed within us when we see a situation like this, and clearly in that gaze, in the depth of that consciousness, we feel something. We know that there is a degree of love, light, a need, a profound need for sure, of being so much concentrated in the essence. And here the human experience does not coincide with that which to be there as the human consciousness as we don't know. So to be charitable is this also, among so many things. And we are charitable when we perceive this, we welcome this. So it's not only to perceive, but it's also to welcome. The point is that many are afraid of welcoming this. Some people are really terrified of finding someone with special needs. They are so terrified. Why? Because this reminds us of the energy of charity. Do you understand the pain? It's not the other's process that affects us. No, it's that this reminds us how distant we are of being charitable, how we are not welcoming profoundly what others are experiencing. And this pain is our pain of not welcoming our profound life and this love and light that is within us. So this is a very important question to conclude this reflection. Very well. That which I do not know might hold the best part. So we leave this impulse and reflections and this invitation for this deepening of our search and awakening. So very well. We'll see each other in 15 days on the 27th, September 27th. Let's see what the universe blows to us until then, so we can help one another mutually in this walk. So very well. Good night, and thank you all.